All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Sunday Market Futures. We are live. It is Sunday, September 21st. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And this is the last day, or the last week, I should say, of September. And so far, it has been a relatively strong September. And hopefully, we are going to end out in a pretty strong way. We got an exciting week. Lots of stuff to go over, lots of different macro data that we're going to be getting. We got a bunch of headlines over the weekend that we'll be talking about. And we ended Friday on a pretty good note. I mean, a hoodie almost 125, Palantir almost 185, Tesla 425, Nvidia back to 170, Google all-time highs. So we're going to see when the overnight markets open in the next 14 minutes what this ends up turning out to be. And we'll kind of see how the market plays out as we get into the final week of September. But very, very excited to be here. And thank you all for being here as well. Now, a couple quick announcements real quick. So first off, I think I figured out what's been going on with the Wi-Fi. And I, to the best of my knowledge, don't think we're going to have that many problems anymore with the Wi-Fi. Apparently, the Wi-Fi company I work with like the one that's set up for this apartment, they gave me two codes. One was for the 2.4 gigahertz. The other one was for the 5 gigahertz. I've been stuck on 2.4 gigahertz for the past 2 weeks. So remember when I tested the download, upload on speedtest.net when Steve was on the close, and it was like 10 for the download, 15 for the upload? I switched it to 5Gs like 10 minutes ago, and it's now 340 for download, 467 for upload. I guess I just missed that there was a better version they sent me. It's the same price. I think the 2.4 is just it's more reliable if you're closer to the router, but 5 is extremely faster. And obviously I need the fast one, not just the reliable one. So yeah, I think we should be good, dude. I think we shouldn't have issues with the Wi-Fi this week. I was using the bootleg version of the one I should have been using. So yes, yeah, I know that was slow. I get it, but we should be okay. So yeah, it's 30x better, dude. I tried it 10 minutes ago. I was like, oh, wait a second. Now we should be okay. We should be all right. So you're connected to the McDonald's across the street. But yeah, that should be okay. And the Wi-Fi should be all right. And then on the camera, it's probably still going to die right here, but I figured out exactly what I need to do to fix it. I need to go to Best Buy and get a certain thing that I didn't have time to get today, but I will be getting that, and that should be fixing the camera for the rest of the week. So yeah, there you go. Some of those housekeeping announcements, and we should be good for the rest of the week as we get into it. All right, so let's talk about the main news of the day. We got about 11 minutes until the market opens. So this is the big thing that I'm pretty sure everyone has seen. Charlie Kirk's memorial is happening right now. And this is the big news that is, at least in the stock market, getting some headlines right here. There you see Elon Musk sitting down with President Trump. This is the first time that they have sat together and publicly acknowledged each other physically in person for the first time since, what is this? Since Elon said he was on the Epstein list, which was back in June. So it's been about 4 or 5 months. And for those that didn't see it, as you can see right there, they're talking, very amicable, very friendly. Obviously, the death of Charlie Kirk likely has led both of them to realize that whatever differences they have should be put to the side, and they should reconcile in terms of how the entire situation was played out. And I think at the end of the day, they're human beings, and they're recognizing that life is short. And, you can see right there, Trump patting him on the knee. Bygones can be bygones, but friendship is more important. So one thing that this is relevant for is obviously Tesla stock. I mean, it's not like Trump has been an overhang on Tesla stock, but nonetheless, if Tesla is going to get some momentum based on Elon and Trump being at least friendly again, that would be something that we can see. And in the next 10 minutes when the market opens, we'll see how this plays out. In terms of the actual event itself, I got to catch a little bit of the event. I saw a little bit of Trump speaking. I mean, it was a very, very powerful event. Yes, Dana White was there as well with Trump. And, as I was driving back from home, because I went home today. Shout out to my mom, by the way. She organized an entire Google Meets with all my relatives from India to congratulate the 100K. So yeah, Mom, if you're watching, I love you so much, and it was really special. I walked in, and there was a big Google Meet already on the TV, and it was my uncle and all these people from India to celebrate 100K. So that was very, very special, and I deeply appreciated that. But as I was driving back, I heard Erica Kirk, his wife, on the stream, and I was listening to what she said. And one of the most important things she said that I think is what people are really focusing on is that she forgives the person who killed her husband. So it was very, very, very emotional moment from Erica Kirk. And then Trump spoke after her. And Trump said a bunch of things. I mean, I caught a little bit of it. The number one thing that I caught, though, was he says tomorrow they're going to announce not a cure for autism, but they've done a lot of research with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and they've gotten closer to figuring out why kids in particular get autism. And so Trump did have a bit of a 10-minute tangent on autism, and he says tomorrow in the White House he said it's going to be one of the most important addresses he's ever done to the nation. And so we'll see how some of the drug stocks, pharmaceutical stocks react to that. And we'll see kind of what evidence they've come towards in terms of the conclusion for what could deal with autism. But that is one thing that he said, and he said they basically helped solve autism. And so, yeah, I heard it for a little bit, but we'll obviously tomorrow we'll get a better understanding of it and go from there. The other stuff Trump was just saying was, just his memories and personal stories of Charlie Kirk. And so definitely was a very important memorial service. And I didn't know Elon was going to be there. I didn't know Trump was going to be there. But there they are, both together, once again, getting to know each other and basically, who knows, potentially become friends again. But you got Elon and Trump right there in the memorial service. So that's what we have there. We got about 8 minutes until the market opens, at least for the overnight. We got a bunch of stories to cover, a bunch of macro stuff that we'll talk about. Here's the main thing that I want to get into, and this is going to be kind of the theme for this episode and probably the theme for the next couple of weeks that we'll discuss. And it's something I think a lot of people are noticing as well as they are scrolling through their feeds and their social, and you're kind of seeing what's going on, which is this. Everyone is posting, at least if you're on FinTwit, their year-to-date portfolio. We do it pretty much every week because I think as a community every week, keeping track of our progress is very important. But there's a lot of people on Twitter posting their screenshots. I mean, I've seen people up ridiculous amounts of money this year, ridiculous percentages. I mean, it's incredible, and I'm very happy for a lot of people. But obviously, when everyone starts posting the screenshots of the gains and this and that, it could feel a little toppy. But in my opinion, everyone is also critiquing everyone for posting their year to date as being too toppy, meaning there's enough people like posting their gains, but there's also, I would say, even more people saying that you shouldn't be posting your gains because it's toppy. So mathematically, again, my mom was a math teacher, so I have a little bit of knowledge from the mathematical side of the spectrum of math. That made no sense. I don't even know why I just said that. But mathematically, the criticism of all the screenshots cancels out the screenshots themselves, which means the show goes on. And so I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be okay. In all seriousness, there are a lot of arguments for the bull case to continue, and we'll explore them throughout the day. I mean, it's like I keep reiterating it every single day because we kind of have to force ourselves to reiterate what is the bull case? Why is the bull case so strong? Why do people have these gains? Why is the market getting more momentum? Is it all bullshit? Is it all hype? Or is it something real? And I think it's something real, dude. I really do. And part of the reason that I'm kind of happy that everyone's criticizing people for posting their year-to-date screenshots is because people are skeptical, which is good. We need people to be skeptical. And if you were to tell me this is peak euphoria, no one's skeptical, I would say you have not scrolled through Twitter. I mean, the amount of skepticism I see every single day is pretty massive. And I think that's important because there are still plenty of people that are either taking profits right here. They don't believe in this momentum. They think that a lot of this is fake, and they probably think that all of this is going to end pretty soon, which is good because I think that continues to pull up the bull case. And so as long as that momentum continues, then hopefully it's not the worst in the world. Yes, you obviously need the wall of worry, which is also very important. By the way, this is the Ontology hoodie that Iliano got me. This hasn't gone live on the store yet, but me, Arnie, Amir, we got this at that event they had at Pouncer. It's super cool, dude. It has Ontology. It's basically the Pouncer logo, but with Ontology. And the quality is amazing. For anyone who got the merch recently, I know they got sent out over the past couple of days. Quality on those shirts are amazing. So yeah, this is like my favorite hoodie. Like I'm gonna wear it everywhere. So I absolutely love this hoodie. Okay, so we got about 5 minutes until the market opens. Again, we got a lot to talk about in terms of macro and where we're going in regards to kind of this bull market. There's 3 stats I want to share with you guys right before we get started. And let me just pull these up right here because I think these 3 stats are important. So number 1, this was on Friday. 27.7 billion shares changed hands on U.S. exchanges, NASDAQ, NYSE, etc. The 3rd busiest day since Bloomberg started compiling the data in 2008. Now, obviously, quad witching day was on Friday, and you didn't have that much momentum to the downside, more so momentum to the upside. You had a lot more money flowing in, but 27 billion shares going back and forth. This is a very, very liquid market in terms of the United States market, and people are ready to trade back and forth as they continue to want to gain exposure to the markets or maybe even take some profits, which is just a good sign in general that the markets are continuing to be liquid. Another stat right here, Goldman was reporting last week through Wednesday saw the largest weekly retail inflow since December. Last week through Wednesday saw the largest weekly retail inflow since December. Again, people see this and they say top, that's fine. But in general, you have more retail investors that are getting excited. Probably a lot of the retail investors that are either doubling down on their bullishness, and we'll talk about why that might be the smart strategy, or retail investors that are on the sidelines and have been on the sideline throughout the past year and finally are capitulating. And that's why you might see some momentum, or at least we're seeing some momentum from a retail perspective. And then Citadel, last stat right here, is saying retail clients have been net buyers the last 19 out of 22 weeks, the longest since 2020. So you do have retail, hey, out of the last 22 weeks being a net buyer for 19 of those 22 weeks. This is the longest stretch since 2020. Again, there's a lot of macro tailwinds that are leading to this momentum, but those three stats put together around Citadel and what Goldman Sachs said, to me, indicates that retail is very, very excited. Now, that might be the reason we have a pullback coming this week or in October. I mean, everyone is free to believe kind of how that data could be interpreted to the upside or to the downside. And I don't think if we get a pullback of at least 5% on the S&P, which where are we at right now? We're at 664. So that would be, I think, back down to the 640s. That would be 630. That would be 630. I mean, it would suck. It would be annoying. A lot of stocks would probably get hit 7 to 10% if we got a 5% pullback, but I don't think anyone would be surprised. Quite frankly, I think a lot of people will be ready to buy that dip if we do get a 5% pullback. But then again, that's kind of what I'm saying. If everyone's expecting this 5% dip, like we were expecting a dip in August, the most we got was 1.62%. We were expecting a dip in September. The most we got was 1.7%. And then you kind of don't get that 5% waterfall that you're looking for. I mean, that is one of the reasons why the wall of worry continues to allow equities to maintain their momentum, which might not be the worst thing in the world. So we're going to see. But obviously, retail is getting very excited, and that retail momentum, I don't think, is the worst thing in the world. Yes, S&P 500 rebounds for two companies, AppLovin and Hood. So we're going to see in 2 minutes when the market opens overnight, like how those react. I mean, there might not be enough liquidity for Robinhood or AppLovin to really react, but we saw Robinhood at the end of Friday and AppLovin both get like a 2.5% surge. And I legit forgot that when Palantir got into the S&P 500, the Friday before that Monday is when a lot of these index funds bought in. They don't actually all buy in on Monday. And so that's probably why we saw AppLovin jump up to 653 and Robinhood it did hit 125.18, just under 125 right here. But that level of inflows, or that coming level of inflows tomorrow, could be one of the reasons why we get some momentum here today. And in about 30 seconds, we are going to see how this ends up playing out. I'm using Robinhood Legend. They really fixed the colors. There's a couple other things they have to fix, but I haven't used Webull all week because Legend's getting a lot better, and I think they're going to introduce a lot more features soon. But the number one thing is they fixed the colors, which is really good because we don't have to look at those yellow, pink lines anymore. Now it's green and red. And so I think there's a few more things they can fix, and then we'll keep Legend every single day. But we haven't used Webull in a week, and I don't have any regrets to go back to Webull. So Legend is getting a ton better. All right, folks, here we go. Sunday, September 21st. The overnight markets are open. And let's see what we've got. Robinhood opens at 125, up 3.5% on the day. Now back to 124.50. So this one's definitely going up and down pretty quickly. Let's see how this one opens up. 124.78. That's up about 3.5% after hours. Palantir, that's up about 43 cents, 0.24%, 182.82. Tessie, 428. There's that green candle right there. 428 on Tesla. Hit 434 really quick and then came right back down. Yeah, that was a really quick 434. And now that is back down. 429.04. Again, Elon and Trump potentially becoming good friends again. Maybe that is a little bit of perception-based momentum for Tesla stock. NVIDIA right here, 176. That one's flat. S&P, that one is also flat. Futures are red, so it would make sense for the futures on the indices to be red. But you got that going a bit down. SoFi right here, 29.60. Let me pull up the futures right here as well, so we can just see how the indices. Yeah, the indices are down about 0.02, so most likely S&P NASDAQ, IWM is going to follow in that direction. Although individual stocks are going to be probably reacting in a little bit of a different way. SoFi almost hit 30. That is correct. SoFi almost hit 30. Let me just pull this up right here. You have Tesla moving. BMNR, again, I don't think it trades on Legend. It trades after hours. And okay, I just gave Legend so many praises and now it's flat. Has anyone else's Legend being stupid? All right, it's coming back. That's definitely not my Wi-Fi. I'll tell you that. That's not my Wi-Fi. Okay, it's coming back. It's coming back. There you go. SoFi right there, 29.70. Just like disappeared for 2 seconds. Now it's back. Here we go. SoFi 29.65. That's up about 0.71%. S&P 663. Tesla 432. Wow, Tesla breaking 430. All right, so that's up 1.5%. Hoodie, I think she wants to break 125 or 140. Yeah, there you go. 125. It's oscillating between 125.60 and then 123. So let's see if we can get there. Google 254 and then grab right there at 639. Yeah, Hood's acting up for a couple of you guys as well, right? Your app is laggy too. Maybe there's too much volume, too much traffic coming in right now. There might be a little bit. Charts are a little bit slower to load, but it's not too bad. HIM's right there, 58.19. That's green. MicroStrategy 343. BMNR is 61.10. Again, let me check mobile. I think on Legend, nope, it's 61.20. Yep. Oh, actually, on mobile, it doesn't trade. On Legend, it trades. So 61.20. I mean, it ended at 61.20. It ended at 61.15. So not that big of a move on BMNR. But that one is moving. Vitalik, the creator of Ethereum, actually put out a white paper this weekend. That's a really, I'll give you guys a summary of it, but it's a really bullish argument for Ethereum writ large. And so we'll go through that and kind of see if that affects the price of ETH at all. Rock Lab right there at 48.50. Ethereum 44.51. That's flat. And then Hoodie just under 125. It is trying to get their Palantir at 183. All right. This Palantir was basically at 185 on Friday. Again, Citron, have not heard from them in about 3 weeks. I don't think it's crazy for them to go back on their short, but so far they have not announced anything. Oracle right here is up 5%, or actually up $5, up 1.7%. Now, the thing about Oracle is on Friday after the close, Oracle and Meta, SoFi, very close to 30. Oracle and Meta supposedly signed a $20 billion computing deal. We don't have exact confirmation on that, but if they did officially sign a $20 billion deal, that's just more RPO for Oracle in addition to OpenAI, which obviously is very exciting. Nebius trying to get back to a hundo, 99.9. It did hit 100, hit 110 the day the deal was announced, and then it kind of faded back into the 90s. But right there at 100. AppLovin, how's that one doing? 658. That's moving just like Hoodie. Hoodie right there, 125. It's not holding 125, but it looks like it wants to be 125. I mean, if the S&P rebalance is that aggressive tomorrow, I mean, maybe we're going way higher than 125. We're going to see how this one ends up playing out. But not too bad. Yes, Oracle also got TikTok. They now have ownership in that company. I think the government strategically did not give TikTok to Meta, Google, Amazon, or Microsoft. That would just make them too big. And so Oracle got a decent stake. A bunch of private VCs and private equity firms got a decent stake. The United States got a stake. We don't know the exact percentages of those stakes, but it makes sense that like Meta didn't get TikTok. If they did, Meta might be $900 right now if they got TikTok. So Meta did not get it, but Oracle did get a piece of it. SoFi, I mean, we all know it wants to go to 30, right? We all know it wants to go to 30. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to be so exciting for it to happen. The question is, can it break out like Hood and Palantir? And I don't know, dude. I mean, if we're in a bull run, and we got a lot to talk about in terms of dissecting this bull run, Tesla right here, 434. I mean, why couldn't it? SoFi, 29.93. She's teasing us. She's teasing us to get there. Next decade, I have not done a ton of DD on this. All I know is, and I showed you guys this on Friday, the insiders are buying this stock like crazy. I think it makes sense just to even, take a starter position. Just like insiders buy stock for one reason, right? They think it's going higher. And so these guys are buying at 741, 731, 698. This is a 10-year hold in the words of Chris and Matt. This is not something you expect to change overnight. But in a market where everything's relatively expensive, and until we get Q3 earnings, it's probably going to continue to be expensive. There are some things that are cheap. I think Grab is one of those names that are cheap. We'll talk a little bit more about Grab in a bit. And I think next decade, just based on the sheer fact that it's down so much and insiders are buying, probably qualifies it as potentially being cheap, but I do not have a position in this one right now. Big Bear AI, is that one running? Big Bear. Wow, back to the sevens. All right, so this one had a pretty bad earnings a month ago, fell to 470. One of the politicians, I forgot the name of the lady, but she bought 50,000 of it at like 650. And that's what really got this thing back into motion. I don't think there's anything fundamental, no news or anything that got Big Bear to be excited again. But there you go, back to 7. Not too bad. I mean, if you DCA'd, you were able to get rewarded. Wow, Hoodie, 125.40. All right, Hoodie's breaking out a little bit. Hoodie is breaking out a little bit. Not too bad. Where's Oklo? Does this thing trade overnight? This thing is just 137. It's up another 1%. So I was talking to that friend that I've told you guys about who got in at $6. And he said he owns all the shares. He's been selling covered calls on them. But he thinks if they get NRC approval, then they are going to bump up another 50 to 100%. NRC is the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Oklo has no revenue, no earnings, and no NRC approval yet. If they get that NRC approval, I mean, his cost basis is 6, so he kind of doesn't care if it goes down by 50%, but he does think there's even more room for this to run. And this is one of the names that people are pointing to, I've been seeing on Twitter, as pure hype, pure momentum, pure froth. Oklo right there, 139. I can't say they're wrong, but again, it's in a niche that's like not BS. We need energy. There's a couple of charts I'm going to show in a little bit about how much we need energy. Nuclear is going to be one of the names that matters when it comes to energy. Trump has signed a bunch of executive orders that are necessary to get nuclear to keep moving. NuScale, that's up another 5% after hours. And then what's the other one? Nano Nuclear, that one's also moving as well. How about Centrus Energy, LEU? That one is also up 4% after. I mean, it looks like it's an energy movement outside of Chevron and Exxon for the nuclear names, which is why they're getting momentum. And that seems to be very, very exciting. Yes, as a reminder, overnight markets are low liquidity, so you can't put much on these moves. That is fair. There's definitely not as much liquidity as when the market's open. So far, right there, 29.91. But it does give us a little bit of a gauge of how we would think tomorrow could open up. Obviously, it's definitely not as liquid as when the markets are actually open. Google right here, 254.71. That's slightly down in the overnight markets as well. Lemonade's up 1.67%. All right. That one's making a move above 60. What about Oscar? That dilution, shareholders kind of ate it up. Didn't matter too much. 1910, not too bad. Nebius, are we over 100? We are over 100, 102 on Nebius. You got a lot of the Nebius community thinking this thing is still cheap. Multiple price targets to 180 have been introduced by Wall Street. And if they get another Microsoft 20 billion type of deal, obviously the market could see that would be very, very excited. IREN, is this one moving? Again, it's moving. Again, I have 100 shares of this. Not too much. 28.98 is my average. 39.59. That's another 2.5%. Steve texted me today, and he texted me something bullish about NVIDIA, and it was like, hey, we need to look at SMCI again. And I'm trying to tell him, dude, we don't need to look at SMCI. We need to look at IREN and Cypher and Bitfarms and TeraWulf. That's what we need to look at. I feel like SMCI is old news. Their margins suck. Yes, they'll probably grow because NVIDIA is growing. But this story's played out. Like the servers for liquid cooling on GPUs is not the story, in my opinion. I think the story is these companies that are transforming into data center plays from being Bitcoin miners. I don't know. I think there's some more alpha there. It's worth looking at a little bit more. So yeah, I'm going to try to see if we can both look deeply at those and keep going from there. Nebius right there, 2.51%. How about CoreWeave? That's up another 1.12%. Rocket Lab, 47.94. ASTS, this was in the gutter for the past 2 weeks after the SpaceX acquisition of one of their competitors, 45.55. That's up 1%. HIM's really making a nice comeback. I still have my 700 shares at a 55.30 average. Just have not done anything with those shares this whole year. 58.37, that's up about 1%. Coinbase at 3.44. Nubank really breaking out. This thing was $12 3 weeks ago. Now it's at 16. DoorDash, 265. You got IBKR right here, 64.90. Trade Desk, that one's still been a little flat, but it's up about 0.31%. AMD, 157. And then SoFi, she's teasing us 5 cents away from 30. Got to see if she can get there. But she is close. Yes, I'm using Robinhood Legend. For everyone who's new here, who's asking, this is Robinhood Legend. I think you do have to be in the United States to get access to it, but this is the platform that shows overnight moves. Now, Webull, some of the other platforms show overnight moves as well. Legend is just, one of the main ones that people use to track it, especially because I use Robinhood every day. So it's easier to kind of just be in the ecosystem and see how some of these names are moving. S&P basically flat right here. All right, so let's do a poll. And let's start this poll right now. Very curious on how people are thinking of it. Obviously, the first 3 weeks of September have been amazing, and it's been a strong month along with August. So I guess let's do a vibe check. Last week of September, we'll do a couple polls, but here's the first one. Green or red? Can we end out this historic month for the S&P 500 and for the broader markets? Green or red? I'm not holding my SoFi calls. I sold them. There was only 10,000 left of meat on the bones for those call debit spreads. I took that money, I put it into BM&R. I'm up like 80 grand on BM&R right now, so I think it was the right move. But my dad is holding on to a bunch of SoFi $10 calls, and he's up like 800% on those. So yeah, I mean, this is just doing incredible. And I get the question really is, I've been asking this for the past couple of weeks, do we think this can pull a Hood or Robinhood or a Hood or Palantir? Because if it does, buying at 30 is not going to feel that weird if it goes to 100. The question is it going to 100 in the same time span? And I don't know. And maybe that's something I'll talk to Tanner about tomorrow on the Tech Bros podcast and really get his updated thoughts. But with rates coming down, if there is a premium on growth and there's a premium for companies that benefit from rates coming down, aka refinancing. And here's the real thing that I think could get SoFi high. If Inodo can scale up this AWS of fintech to a much stronger degree, SoFi 29.98, I don't know. I think there's a world. I think there's a world where it can really, really do well. The question is just going to be their execution and how ultimately that plays out. All right, 75% of you say green. 75% of you say green for the last week of September. So we have a decent chunk of people here that are bullish on the green nature of this last week. Tesla right here, 433, 77. Grab right here at 639. AMD 157, S&P 663, Palantir 183.25, SoFi 29.99. We got to. It wants 30. Snapchat has finally broken out. This thing was stuck at 7 for like 3 weeks after crappy earnings. I don't think there's anything fundamental for Snapchat breaking out. This is kind of a rising tide lifts all boats. And if it's a bull market, you're going to get names like Snapchat that I wouldn't say were necessarily cheap at 7, but were definitely left in the gutter. They're going to rise. And I think the question of this bull market is, can we navigate the stocks that are randomly running for the sake of running versus the stocks that are, running because they have fundamental earnings? And obviously I don't think Snapchat has those earnings, but it is starting to make its move back to $9. There's 30. There is 30. There she is. There she is. SoFi right here. $30. $30. 7 to 30. We're not ringing the bell. We're going to ring the bell tomorrow when it actually hits 30. This is this illiquid overnight market, so we usually don't ring the bell for price targets in the overnight markets. But tomorrow, more likely than not, dude, it's going to hit 30. Even if it falls like a percentage or two, it'll get back to 30. And we will see this one play out tomorrow. There she is, dude, from 7 to 30. What is that, a 4x? 4.2x roundabout? I mean, not bad. Not bad at all. Options are going to continue to print tomorrow as this one makes its momentum. And then, I mean, if it hits 30, it's not that hard for people to jump in, especially institutional funds that start to get more bullish on this. Price targets go up. I think Barclays or Mizuho raised their price target on Friday. And, you get some $35, $40 price targets right there. That one might continue running. SoFi hit 30 before Emit did. That's correct. SoFi hit 30 before Emit did. Okay, so next poll, and then we'll get into all the macro news. Who is taking profits? That is my next poll. Are you taking any profits, either a yes or no? And then I would like to know in the chat what profits, what stocks, what strategies you're using to take some profits. We'll do that for about 5 minutes, and then we'll get into all the headlines that we got. And we'll keep going from there. Iran is indeed trying for 40. Iran 39.55. Dude, this thing was $15 like 3 weeks ago, right before earnings. And it had gone from like 7 to 15. So, I mean, this one is having a massive move, and it's not necessarily slowing down as the impetus for data centers continues to increase. Duolingo right there, 294. That's up 1.3%. Again, Robinhood above 125. App 11 trying to break 657 right here in the overnight markets. All right. Let's see what some people are saying. Oklo, I'm 100% using some options, taking profits. Open Door, I don't think that trades overnight. Open Door. Yeah, it's up a little bit, 963. 960. Okay, so open door is up a little bit. S&P basically flat. People saying I'm taking some profits into Tesla, selling some leaps for Hood and SoFi. Not the worst idea. I sold a lot of my leaps for Hood and SoFi, like in the past 4 months, and I just transitioned all that into stocks. De-risking options into shares, I think that's a really smart strategy. Even if you're buying shares at a bit of an expensive level, at least you're getting out of the time frame that options lock you into, where anything could happen, and then those options could theoretically go to zero, right? So transitioning is not the worst idea. Staple says, I'm sorry, Mid, I sold some Palantir. That is okay. Palantir is very expensive right here at 183. I'm happy it's getting back to the 180s because, Citron said it was going to go to 40. So I'm happy that it's like not going to 40 and that it's basically getting to the price where they said it was going to go to 40 at. But if you want to take some profits on Palantir, you take some profits on Palantir. It is what it is, right? Palantir is an expensive name. I think this name has defied conventional understandings of valuation. And although I see the future is bright, I did buy 100 shares at 169. I told you guys that Friday. On Monday, I bought 100 shares at 169, just because that's where I bought right before the earnings or right after the earnings. So I was like, all right, if it's at the price I basically bought at last time, then I might as well just buy another 100 shares here. But for me, Palantir is just long-term hold, and I continue to hold on to the name. And I think Q3 is going to see, the thing is rate cuts are coming again, and Q3 we know is going to be lights out. So does it have to get a 10, 20% bump up to 200? Absolutely not. Could it? Yeah, I think it could. We just have to see how it plays out towards the end of the year. Some people are saying I'm selling some Nebius. I'm selling some Micron. In the chat, 63% of you said no. So the majority of people are not taking profits, which is fair. 37% are taking some profits. Oh, yeah. Where is Apple, dude? I am so happy we picked Apple on the freaking, there you go, 247 on the stock draft, which I am in first place now officially. Now it can change any second, but we are officially beating Matt just by a small amount. Matt's at 26.7. I'm at 27.8. This is with Duolingo being down about 40%. Tanner's catching up as well. Tanner's at 20. Steve's at 7. And then Chris is at 10.72. Yeah, I mean, like the thing about Apple is just like it's freaking Apple. And I've critiqued Apple a lot over the past couple of years. I've not really been a fan of their execution, but it's Apple. And with the upgrade cycle and the Gemini partnership and a potential real Siri coming out and index funds just like always passively buying Apple because it's freaking Apple. I mean, hard to be that bearish. And I'm happy that Apple's participating in a bull run because it would be really weird if it wasn't. Apple still is, I think, 4.7% of the S&P 500. And so you do need Apple to make a little bit of a run. And that one is getting some momentum. Bitfarms, let's see how that one's doing after hours. That one, 319. UEC, Uranium Energy, that one does not trade after hours. Wolf, does TeraWolf trade after hours? Again, Google took a stake in them. That one doesn't trade after hours at all. Some of these are a bit smaller. And then Cypher, I don't think that trades after hours. That doesn't. So Iran is one of the only ones in those data center plays that actually trades after hours. Hopefully we get some of those other ones beginning to trade after hours because obviously that would lead to a lot more liquidity and we could see some of the price targets as well. I did not sell. I did not roll my calls on BMNR. I'm thinking of a better one than 2027 105. I'm thinking of February 85, February 26 85. I would still get a net credit of about like $6,000, and I think 85 by February is a bit more reasonable instead of being locked up to 105 for another 7 months. So that might be the one that I choose to do. And yeah, we're going to see how that one plays out. So yeah, that's what I'm doing with my Bitmine. Dong says I sold 1/3 of my SoFi. That is fair. We got a bunch of people taking some profits. Bitmine right there, 60.80. Snapchat, did we break $9 on Snapchat? Snapchat was just at 889, 924. Wow, 13%. There should be some news on Snap. It shouldn't just be a just general move higher, right? That 13% has to be news. I don't see the news. By February, BMNR will be like 160. Okay, so again, maybe I guess I'm too bearish compared to you guys on BMNR. I still think Ethereum has to move for BMNR to move to those levels, and Ethereum's not moving yet. So if anyone thinks Ethereum's going to be at like, I don't know, 10, 12,000 by February, then maybe. I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be. So if it is, then we'll roll it again. Like it is, like, again, I did not get into this for some massive long-term thesis. I mean, realistically, I got in it at BM&R to sell calls. So if some of them get rolled, I mean, I'll keep a certain portion always, but if some of them get sold, I don't mind, dude. I really don't. It helps me raise some cash for 2026, can deploy into some other safer opportunity. Like, I'm not wedded to it. I will probably leave around 2,000 shares long-term, but I also don't know if it's really going to explode into the high 100s by end of year, early next year. I don't know, dude. I think it's a bit aggressive. Maybe I'm wrong. We're going to see. And again, I'm bullish on it. I've got a lot of money in it. I just think Ethereum's got to really move to get there. And, you know, Ethereum, I think, will be a nice move over time. I don't know if it's going to happen all at once towards the end of the year. But we're going to see how this one ends up playing out. Okay, so there's a lot of people talking about Snapchat on X right now. There's tons of volume. 500,000 shares just came in. There's got to be some news that people know about. There's got to be some news that's causing this thing to move 13%. Maybe collaboration with TikTok, maybe a new CEO. I mean, I don't know. Maybe an activist investor taking a stake, but 15% move on Snapchat is definitely not just bull market stuff. That's got to be something big. I don't see it yet, and maybe we'll find out pretty soon. But something is causing this to make a move on Snapchat. Once we get close to 5%, we're going to start buying ETH at market price, and the price of ETH will explode. Thank you, Tariq, for the super chat. Yeah, I think that can happen, but like, it also has to happen, right? Like, I think ETH will do. Like, I don't know if Tom Lee is right about 10,000 ETH by end of year, 200,000 Bitcoin by end of year. Which theoretically, you would imagine if Ethereum does get to 10K, Bitcoin has to be closer to 200K, right? If Ethereum more than doubles from here, because they usually do move in tandem. I mean, I know Ethereum has been kind of moving a little bit away from Bitcoin, but that's because Bitcoin has already made such a big move over the past 2 years. Ethereum's kind of just catching up. So now what would really get exciting is if Ethereum flips Bitcoin completely. I don't know if we're there yet. I think it's possible. And I've heard the thesis from Tom Lee on why it's possible. I just don't know if we're there yet in the next 5-6 months. I think that's more of a multi-year sequence if it were to ever flip Bitcoin. But we're going to see over time. And we'll see how it ends up playing out. So that's what we got on Bitcoin and Ethereum. I don't think there's any other crazy moves in the overnight market. Snapchat is the big one. No news on why that's moving. Nebius right there at 102. Hoodie back over 125. Which, by the way, if Bitcoin and Ethereum are anywhere near Tom Lee's targets, Hood's going to be close to 200. I mean, like the amount of trading volumes that would be generated on Hood, by the way, Pounter almost 185. Maybe 200 is a bit aggressive, but 150 for sure if Bitcoin's anywhere near 200K. I mean, the assets under custody itself would be lifted to the tune of 20 billion on Hood, which just passed 300 billion AUC. So I would love for that to happen. It's just a question of if it plays out like that towards the end of the year. Cool. Okay, so this is what we got on the overnight markets. We'll keep a track on if anything else crazy happens. Snapchat is the big one. SoFi crossing 30, Grab crossing 640, S&P basically flat, Tesla 433, Nvidia 176, and then Palantir almost 185, Hoodie above 125 on the day. And then Lemonade as well, doing great. A lot of these names that have been retail gems. Lemonade, there you go, up 4% right there. Meta slightly red, Amazon slightly up, and then the Googs at 254.78. All right, cool. That is what we got. So let's get into a bunch of different headlines. We'll keep going from there, and we'll start seeing kind of how we think of what is going on in the broader market. So let's start off with this. This is our 2025 performance. This is our 2025 performance across the board. As you can see, Apple is the only one that is still red year to date, and overnight that looks like that is changing. So we're going to see how that one ends up playing out. But you got a lot of green. And the one thing that is not green are some of the more defensive names, like utilities. Healthcare has been in a little bit of a laggard. Energy. Some energy names have done well. Other energy names have not done that well. Obviously, tech is doing great. When Robinhood joins the S&P 500 tomorrow, Robinhood will be the best performing stock in the S&P 500. So when Robinhood's up 196% year to date, once it joins tomorrow officially, it will be the best performing stock. AppLovin, let me just see their stock year to date performance, 90%. Okay, so you got App 11 at 90%. Robinhood will be about a 200% when it joins tomorrow. So when I look at this chart and I kind of think of what do I feel the rest of the year is going to play out to be, I think it's going to be more of the same. And I know that's a little bit of a cliche answer, but financials are green, tech is green, and I guess you could put consumer durables and energy as green. Again, certain types of energy are really green, other types of energy are flat. But those are the four names I expect to continue to pump. I don't know if healthcare catches a massive bid towards the end of the year. I don't know if utilities catch a massive bid towards the end of the year. Communication has been doing okay. Verizon's been relatively flat. It's about a 5% year to date. Maybe that catches a little bit of a bid. But in general, I feel like the playbook with rate cuts is going to be crypto derivatives, technology, financials, and then small caps, which is now starting to get a lot more momentum because we finally have those rate cuts that are being priced in. Again, I think being selective on small caps is really important. There are definitely some gems of small caps like an Iran or a Cypher that aren't that small anymore, but they were pretty small a couple of months ago that are now getting some momentum along with emerging markets. I think that's why Grab's getting a bid, Nubank's getting a bid. China's not an emerging market, but China has really been getting a bid as people have been starting to feel less scared of the CCP risk and more so they care about just getting more exposure to what's going on in China. I think those are the sectors that work. I kind of think you don't fight the Fed. I think you don't fight what's working. And I would love to hear the bear case for why any of the sectors that have been working, like technology, would stop working. Because Q3 earnings are going to be pretty good, from my understanding. And if those earnings are strong with rate cuts being relatively tame, inflation not massively skyrocketing up, and then the labor market hopefully not being a disaster, which that I think is a question that's still up in the air. But if that's not the case, I think we're okay. And when I mean I think we're okay, I don't think that means 7,500 S&P, but I think that does mean that we can hold this momentum. And I think the biggest thing, I think for all of us, we would love to end out the year where we are, right? Like if you could say, hey, the year ends today and this is your performance, I think a lot of us would be happy. So now we're just asking for cherry on the top of the Sunday. And I think we can continue to get to that point where you do get the cherry on top, but you've got to have these companies executing. And it doesn't seem like there's any major interruption, at least not from now in the data, that would be that major interruption. And along with, tax loss, I mean, a lot of people don't want to pay taxes too. So there usually is more selling in January because people that have gains don't want to sell in 2025 because then they have to pay taxes for 2026. So you might have a lot of people, yes, tax loss harvesting, but also just waiting until January to actually end up selling, which is kind of what creates the ingredients along with a lot of other variety of macro factors to get that overall Santa Claus rally. Viral says, I sold all the BM&R margin positions and bought debit spreads. And if the market takes shit, I will buy more debit spreads. Yeah, I don't hate that. I mean, obviously there's a lot of good exposure on BM&R in the options market, especially if you think it's going to make a big move. The only thing here is what if it doesn't, right? And that's comes down to, hey, how bullish are you on Ethereum? Because I think that will determine what ends up playing out with BM&R. Now, what is going to be happening this week? Number one, Fed Chair Powell is going to speak on Tuesday. I just found this out today. I don't know what he's going to talk about, but he'll be talking about something. I think this is going to be at 12:35, if I'm not wrong. So it might just be a nothing burger, or it might be something where he's taking a lot of questions, but we'll see what happens. New home sales data on Wednesday. Again, the housing market, this one needs to be opened up, at least from the eyes of people that care about the housing market. Lennar did not have the best earnings, but they are optimistic that rate cuts will help. So we're going to see how that plays out. August durable goods. You get Q2 GDP data on Thursday. That's a big one. Most estimates are at 3.5%, which would be massive. It is not easy to grow almost 4%. So that would be great to see if we can get that on Thursday. We get existing home sales data Thursday. And then Friday is going to be a busy day because we get PCE inflation data. This is something that the Fed cares about the most. If we can get that inflation data that is not as aggressive, then I think the market would be very excited about as well. So that's what we got going on to going forward in this week. And those are all the macro things that we're going to be looking at. Now, here's a chart that I think I showed last week, but if I didn't, then it's definitely something to reference again. The Fed has cut historically near all-time highs. And every time 12 months later, when the S&P 500 is within 2% of an all-time high and the Fed cuts, which is exactly what happened on Wednesday when Jay Powell gave us the cut, we are up on average 14% the next year. So every time, 100% of the time, on average, the S&P 500 is up 14% a year after we end up getting a cut when that cut is within 2% of the S&P 500 all-time high. So a lot of the bears are saying, well, the S&P is at all-time highs. You can't cut in the midst of all-time highs because you're cutting into too much strength, aka stagflation, or maybe like we're overheating an economy that doesn't need to be heated. When in reality, the labor market is the number one reason why the Fed decided to cut in the first place. And Jay Powell pretty much said he's not concerned about inflation anymore. He's more concerned about the labor market. It's not like he doesn't care about inflation, but you could easily tell his focus was on the labor market. And number two, in a lot of those scenarios, you did not have the massive tailwind that is AI, which is deflating the economy, which gets rid of the sort of concerns about stagflation, at least to an extent. And number two is increasing earnings. And at the end of the day, if stocks trade as a multiple based on their earnings, and earnings are going up, and I know the counter argument, yes, well, jobs are going down if earnings are going up because people are firing people in inside companies. I get it. That's a whole different situation we have to deal with. But at the end of the day, if earnings are going up, you're going to get a multiple on those earnings that is just higher than what it has historically been, especially if the rate of growth on those earnings can be, triple digits or at least high double digits, which is what a lot of these companies have been putting up. Even some of the biggest companies, Meta is growing their earnings at 23%. That's crazy. Like, that's insane. That's not their revenue, their earnings, their actual bottom line profits. If that continues, I don't think that's slowing down. Not to mention this, and I played this last week, but for those that didn't catch it, this clip is very, very important, and it definitely got a lot of people's attention. There is a tailwind of CapEx that is not slowing down, and if that tailwind of CapEx does not continue to slow down, then you're probably going to get more momentum from the hyperscalers into semiconductors, and that likely leads to more CapEx across all the data center plays, which is good for those stocks.
Didn't you just tell Trump you were going to spend like $600 billion?
I did, yeah, through 2028, which is
that's a lot of money.
It is, and if we end up misspending a couple of $100 billion, I think that is going to be very unfortunate, obviously. But what I'd say is I actually think the risk is higher on the other side. If you build too slowly, and then super intelligence is possible in 3 years, but you built it out assuming it would be there in 5 years, then you're just out of position on what I think is going to be the most important technology that enables the most new products and innovation and value creation in history. So,
Zucks is literally saying, if we misspend a couple $100 billion, it's okay because we'd rather be in it versus out of it. You don't have a bear market when someone's willing to mistakenly spend a couple $100 billion, because if Zuck's spending that much money, then all the other hyperscalers are going to be spending that money as well, which to me is just another bull case for Nvidia, Broadcom, SMCI, all of these semiconductor names that are going to get some more momentum. Hey, Mitt, first time in your chat, thoughts on Micron for this week? Micron's already made a pretty good move over the past couple weeks. I don't own the name. I do think it's going to be very important as data centers continue to scale, but over the past month, it's up 40%. I don't know if now is the best entry, but that's not specific to Micron. That's for every name. Like, is it the best entry in a lot of these names that we cover every day? I don't know. Yes, you could buy into strength, and that's not a horrible thing to do, especially if you have a long-term horizon, but buying a name that's up 40% in a month, it's tough, dude. And the people that should have to make the difficult decision to buy a name that's up 40% in a month are the people that have no exposure. If you have exposure, realistically, if it just continues, I think selling puts here would be easier. So at least you capture some of the premium from the upside, but you're not forced to actually spend that much money on the individual name. So I think the people that don't have exposure to the equity markets are making the hard decisions, as we're seeing, to buy in. It's not easy psychologically to buy in at these prices, but that is likely what's keeping some of this momentum to go higher. Micron have earnings this week, do they? Let me see. What earnings do we have this week? Oh, yeah, we do. Micron on Tuesday. We have Accenture, we have Costco, and we have AutoZone. All right, so about 3 to 4 companies that are pretty important. And we'll be taking a look at their earnings as well. Swift, thank you for the gifted 5 memberships. Sharoos, thank you for the gifted 5 memberships. Rashab, thank you for the gifted 5 memberships. Deeply, deeply appreciated. A bunch of you guys in the chat just got some memberships, courtesy of Swift, Sarush, and Rashab. Again, if you become a member to the channel, there's nothing exclusive. It just helps support the channel for $5 a month. So deeply, deeply appreciate it. Thank you all for the gifted memberships. Moist Terms, thank you for the $10 super chat. Me and the wifey listen to you daily, wondering if you're still holding on to your Google 150 call. Love your content. Thank you for being here, and thank you and the wifey for listening together. Yes, I'm still holding those. I think I'm going to sell them probably late November. I want to see how much more juice is left in Google. I know it's at 250, and I know it's like maybe the juice is squeezed out of it, but who knows? What if Sundar puts up one of those quarters? Which is, I mean, Sundar has not had one of those quarters this year that it's like a Meta or Microsoft type of quarter. And what I mean by that is last quarter was really good, but it wasn't a quarter where the stock reacts up 10% after the earnings. And Meta and Microsoft both had that quarter in Q2. So if now that all the DOJ stuff is gone, if Google actually reports a meaningful quarter, I mean, I don't know if it's crazy to say Google 275 by end of year, but I definitely think it's possible. If not, if it's stuck at 250, then that's also fine. But yeah, holding on till the end of the year for those. All right, you guys think crypto is dumping? Is it actually Bitcoin? You got a little bit of a red candle right there, 115.5 to 114.8. And then Ethereum. Oh, wow. Okay. Sunday algos. You're looking at them, folks. 43.60. Where is BMNR? Dude, Bitmine's still holding 60. I know there's barely any volume, but still. You would just think algorithmically Bitmine would like tank to like 57 by now. Nope. It's holding on. Even with Ethereum taking a little bit of a haircut. That's probably because of not that much liquidity, but also because at the end of the day, Bitmine's multiple is continuing to expand, and maybe that multiple holds strong even if Ethereum takes a bit of a hit. We are going to have Dan Ives on the show tomorrow, I believe at, let me confirm, I think it's at 10:45. So he'll be on to talk a little bit more about orbs, and yeah, 10:30. He'll be on at, actually, no, 10:40, but 10:45 to 11:30 he's scheduled. So 10:45 he'll be on, and we'll get his take on Ethereum. Obviously, Tom Lee invested in the company that he is now the chairman of, and we'll kind of see how he's thinking of these digital asset treasuries in general as a vehicle for more momentum. Amit, are you buying Grab above 6? Yes, I am. I bought Grab above 6 all of last week. I think the highest price I bought it at was $6.15. I did not contribute to my solo 401k yet. I'm going to do that towards the end of the year, and whatever price Grab is at, whether it's at $6, $7, $8, I'm going to be buying Grab in the solo 401k. I mean, again, I don't want to touch that money for like 10 years. So I do think whether it's 6, 7, or 8, Grab should be a good option over the coming years. 643 right there on Grab. Rocket Lab is at 47.86. That is slightly flat in the overnight markets. Okay, so we'll try to see what's going on with crypto. It's probably Sunday algorithms. Someone's liquidating. I mean, this happens like every Sunday, and sometimes it's to the upside, sometimes it's to the downside. So I wouldn't read too much into the crypto move. Snapchat, though, I'm still trying to figure out what is the news on Snap. That does not have a 14% move without news, usually on a name like this. So we're going to see if we can get any updates on that. All right, let's get into some of the other updates. Tariff revenue is skyrocketing. The U.S. is now collecting a record $350 billion in annualized tariff revenue. This marks a 355% increase compared to 2024, as the S&P at the same time has added $16 trillion of market capitalization since April of 2025. Now, what's very important about this is that Jay Powell himself basically said on Wednesday, the tariffs are not that much of a concern anymore. He didn't explicitly say it's a one-time price increase and it's over, but he kind of hinted to the fact that tariffs might not increase the cost of products as much as we think they are. And we saw in the PPI that tariffs are not as aggressive because the producer price index, the prices that producers pay in order to charge to us as consumers, was down 2.6% versus 3.3% expected. Now, people will come back and say, well, wait a minute, Amit. The reason why the PPI is coming down is because demand in general is going down. Consumers aren't buying that much, AKA that's why producers have to lower their prices to get them to buy. And I would agree with you. The problem is retail sales came in at 0.5% versus 0.2% expected. So it's not like retail sales is like anything to scoff at. Retail sales are doing great, which means demand is not necessarily going down at the levels that people think it's going down. SMR right here is up 7% in the overnight markets. And that is why the tariff debacle might not end up being the worst thing in the world if we're actually able to collect $350 billion per year, pay down some of our debt, and not have these massive price increases that obviously would challenge the entire economy. So we're going to have to give it the next few months to see if that PPI trend can stay forward without hurting demand. But so far, it's not the worst thing in the world. All the nuclear stocks, again, are continuing to get momentum. SMR right there, Nano Nuclear. I don't even think there was some I know the UK announced some stuff with nuclear last week, but Oklo was up, 140, of course. Why not? Oklo year to date or in the past. Oklo's up 100% in the past month, bro. Like this, either somebody knows something and the FOMO is getting aggressive, or we are all missing the nuclear story. I don't know. It's going to be hard for me to buy in at these levels. It's just not easy to buy in, but whoever is buying in might end up being rewarded. 141 on Oklo. That one's not stopping. And then SoFi right there at 29.97 on the day. Man, this seems frothy. Oklo, I'm not going to lie, it seems frothy, dude. It really does. I don't know what to say about that one, but I feel like maybe I'm missing the story. Then again, 20 billion market cap, no revenue, no earnings, no product, even just like pure potential of how they're going to, capitalize on nuclear. I don't know. Also, Sam Altman used to be the chairman of the board of this company. So you still have that going for it. Grab right there, 645. So, I mean, there's a way to make sense of the argument. It's just hard to get to buy into that level of strength, not knowing, what the upside could be, or realistically not knowing what the downside is. So that one continuing to make momentum. And then SMR, I don't think there's any news after hours either. That's just up 7%. But same thing with Oklo. There's no specific news on any of the nuclear names. I think this is just more momentum from Friday bleeding into the overnight markets right here. And that's why it's getting some momentum. One thing to understand about Oklo as well, and I mean, I don't know if this matters the most, but like it's hard to necessarily ignore it. Insiders are cashing out. In the past week, they've sold about 450,000 shares. So, like, it is what it is. It's not the most bearish. Obviously, if their stock's up 1,600%, you're probably going to take some profits. But it is one thing to just look at that the insiders are selling, and someone's buying it. And maybe they're buying it at a way better deal. But that one is kind of feeling like a little bit of a fraud. 145. It's not stopping, bro. It is not stopping. Volume is only 80,000 shares, but still, it continues to be green. Dude, why does everyone say I say strength wrong? Like, someone said this over the weekend. You're saying strength wrong. How am I saying strength right? It's strength. Like, I cannot believe people are saying I don't know how to say strength. Like, strength.
Strength.
Like, that's not that different, right?
Strength.
Okay, it sounds a little different, but like you're omitting the G. Strength. Okay, well, that G is not real to me, so I'm just going to continue to ignore that G was ever there. I mean, real G is moving silence like lasagna anyway, so it is what it is. Anyway, let's see if we can continue some more of this strength. All right, so we got some other updates right here. Let's look at this. This is the worst week of the year for U.S. stocks. So I know we've been looking at a bunch of charts that say September is the worst week of the, or September is the worst month of the year. However, Monday marks the start of the 39th trading week of the year. That's historically been the worst week for the S&P 500 based on data going back to 1990, and the week that's seen the highest incidence of 1% drops for the benchmark U.S. stock market index, which is the S&P 500. So it's so funny because it's like the boy who cried wolf. It's like August is going to be the dip, and like we barely get it. September is going to be the dip, and so far we barely gotten it. But this week is supposed to be the worst week of the year for the entire stock market. The ironic thing is, if we were to give back 1% this week, I mean, the S&P 500, just to be fully accurate, September 1st was 640. If we give back 1%, we're still going to be up about 2.5% for the month. It wouldn't be that big of a deal, right? It wouldn't be that crazy. So even though we might get some pain in September, maybe that September pain is relatively neutral given how much we rose for the first 3 weeks. And then we have to see what happens in October. Now, October doesn't tend to be that bad. October doesn't also tend to be that good. What if we get a red October because we barely got in some red over the past couple of months? Or what if the show keeps going as earnings continue momentum? I mean, again, that April decline, I don't think can be underestimated on how bad it was. And because we got the worst of it in April, maybe that kind of cleared out the year to not be as aggressive as some people think it's going to be. But if we're green to end up the year, and that's the thing, if everyone's expecting it to be red, then maybe it's green. And that's kind of how the story continues as it has been playing out over the past couple of months. Now, here's another story right here. Retail traders' favorite stocks are on a record winning streak. Relatively speculative small cap stocks, many of which are beloved by retail traders, are basking in the glow of the renewed Federal Reserve rate cuts. Goldman Sachs' baskets of stocks widely held by the retail community is going straight up into the right, poised for a record 10th straight day of gains. It's up over 13% on this stretch. And what are those names? D-Wave, Rigetti, SoundHound, AMC. I mean, you got a bunch of these names in the quantum space, in the sort of traditional meme stock space, like AMC. GameStop's been getting a little bit of momentum. SoundHound, I don't think is a meme stock. It's actually, they have some pretty good earnings. They're another AI name. That's getting momentum. And this is just another kind of piece of the story for why retail is continuing to win, as retail continues to see some of these names that are getting momentum continue to get momentum. The question is, does the party like slow down on some of these retail names? Does it take a little bit of a haircut, or does it continue? I don't know. We are eventually going to find out, but so far that's been getting some of the largest momentum. And then obviously the comments last week by the IONQ CEO were pretty big comments and very important. Again, for those that missed it, this is what he said. Some people feel like he's being misquoted, but I mean, you guys listen to it again and tell me if there's a misquote. He is saying quantum computing will make GPUs obsolete by 2027.
Maybe even 2 million qubits in 2030. And that will allow us to solve problems that classical GPUs couldn't even solve if they had the known age of the universe to try and compute it.
So the Blackwell chip is going to look aged and dated in that scenario in the 2030s when you've got millions of QPUs.
It's going to look dated a lot sooner than that. I think by 27 we'll have 10,000 qubits in our chip in partnership with our new friends at Oxford Ionics.
Yeah.
And honestly, that will wipe the floor, if you will, with any other supercomputer that exists on Earth.
Well, you talked about
maybe even.
So the people that are defending him and being like, he didn't actually say what he said. I mean, he said it's going to be sooner than that. It's going to wipe the floor, and the biggest supercomputer or the most important supercomputing technology will not compete with quantum. I mean, if that doesn't happen by 2027, is the SEC calling this guy? You can't be a public CEO and say stuff like that to such a degree and it not be true. I mean, you have to be very careful as a public. This is why public CEOs have teams of lawyers around every single word they say, because you cannot mislead the public to such an extent that it's almost like you're legit lying. And dude, either all of us are missing quantum, and IONQ is the most. I mean, if this is NVIDIA in 2023, then I feel like all of us need to buy this shit. But if it's not, and I don't know, I feel a bit more skeptical that it is. IONQ up another 4% after hours. And again, I have no hate towards anyone making money in quantum. I mean, make your money. I'm just genuinely trying to figure out, is this guy BSing, or does he know something the rest of the world doesn't know about GPUs being, in his words, obsolete? Not by 2030, by 2027. I mean, I don't know, dude. It's a bit aggressive. Elon does the same. Okay, well, Elon, at least we know there's something real in terms of the technology in regards to FSD, robotics. Elon's timelines are just crazy. Quantum is still up in the air right now. For the real believers, you have a real belief, but a lot of the industry has not fully embraced quantum yet. And they probably will. The question is, will they do to such an extent that it makes graphic processing units obsolete? I don't know. I don't know if that ends up playing out, but we're going to see what ends up going, which brings me to the next poll that I want to make. Let's pull it up right here and let's see what some people think. So again, 67% of you guys said you're not taking any profits. Here is the next poll. Do we have bubbles in subsets of the market? Do we have legit bubbles in subsets of the market, whether it's quantum, nuclear, whatever it is? I feel like the answer has to be yes to that question. The problem is, the point is, it doesn't really matter if there are those bubbles, because if they collapse, I don't think it's taking down the market. If NVIDIA was a bubble, it takes down the market. If quantum or energy is a bubble, then I don't think it takes down the market. It just takes down those individual names. So I don't think that's a bearish thing for the market, but it is one of those things I think we do have to be evident for, because if there are little mini bubbles popping up and those pop, I mean, they could have some resounding impacts, or some residual impacts, I should say, even if they don't kind of destroy the entirety of the market. Rashab, thank you for the 400 super chat. Thoughts on EOSE and Rubrik? So I don't know too much about Rubrik. I know Sam, who's a friend of the channel, is super bullish on it, and he's been adding more in the low 70s. Software company, have not done too much DD on them, but I mean, this is a name that has been getting a lot of more people's attention. And then EOSE, I've not looked into this one either, but I know a lot of people think this is the next energy play to win. Does have a decent retail following, $2.7 billion market cap, battery storage solutions. Yeah, this one's just going to take some DD from my side, but it also has made a pretty good move already. I mean, year to date, this thing is up 76%. So again, a lot of these names, even if there's some alpha in them, they're up a ton. And so the hard part about buying a new name, like I think for the next 4 months, it's really hard to initiate new positions. Unless it's a pure gamble or like you have a lot of DD and you're convinced. It's easier to buy Hood, Palantir, NVIDIA, Grab, BMNR, SoFi, Tesla. Like if you're in these names already, it's easier to just average up and want to get a bit more exposure. It's hard if you don't know what an Oklo does or what an EOS does or what a Rubrik does to just jump in for the hell of jumping in. Unless the financials look really attractive, which maybe they are. But I think that's going to be the hard part going into the next like 4 months on which one of these names get momentum. Dan Ives will be on at 10:45 tomorrow, 10:45 a.m. He will be on, and we'll ask him about his ideas right now around technology. Amit, without quantum, we might not get any AGI potentially. I am not well versed enough in quantum to understand if AGI needs quantum to be successful. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Again, there's a lot more due diligence I have to do on this, but I feel like there will always be a role for quantum in the future, and I think that role is growing exponentially. Is it growing to the point where NVIDIA becomes obsolete or traditional computing mechanisms that are powering society right now become obsolete? I don't know. That's a hard argument to justify. But a lot more research will be required to see if that ends up playing out. All right, so some of the other stories that we have going on. Okay, so this I thought was pretty interesting and quite evident about why the LLM wars are only continuing. Grok has 64 million monthly users. ChatGPT has 700 million weekly users. So this is new reporting by Sherwood. And basically their analysis here is looking at a lot of app downloads and data metrics because Grok doesn't make this stuff public because they're not a public company. ChatGPT recently just made it public that they have 700 million weekly users. And I kind of believe this. I mean, no one uses Grok. I'm sorry. We use Grok. I use Grok because I pay for Twitter. But like at the end of the day, the average person in AI does not know what Grok is. They know what ChatGPT is because it's just synonymous with AI at this point. This is going to take a lot of work for Elon to compete with ChatGPT as they continue to grow. And that's why even I got fooled by the news on Friday that XAI was raising another $10 billion. I'm really happy they're not raising because I think the valuation on XAI at $200 billion, which would have been more than Anthropic, would be a bit aggressive because there's no, even if you give Grok freaking 300 million monthly users, right? Like let's just 5x the number that we just reported. They still would not be making any significant amount of money anywhere near OpenAI or Anthropic. They probably wouldn't be able to meaningfully justify a $200 billion valuation. However, if they want to compete with the OpenAIs and Anthropics of the world, they're obviously going to have to raise a lot more money eventually. And the question is just going to be when. Now, Elon says they are the closest to getting to AGI out of all the other companies. And I think he's probably right about that based on some of the benchmarks we've seen. But the question is, can they actually get to AGI first? And do they need another 300,000, 400,000 GPUs to get there? Time will tell. But the point is they are definitely raising more and more money, or not raising money yet, but they're likely going to have to raise more and more money. And if they do, then obviously that will help them continue to compete with the likes of OpenAI and Anthropic. But it's just not a lot, dude. 60 million users is amazing, but it's not 700 million. And that's 64 million monthly, whereas ChatGPT is 700 million weekly. Gemini has 450 million monthly as per the last Google update on their earnings. And on the next earnings, we'll get a deeper understanding. Let me check right now if Gemini is still above ChatGPT in the App Store. Yeah, dude, Gemini is still above ChatGPT in the App Store. Look at that. It's been a week now. It's been a full week. Gemini, ChatGPT, Threads, Amazon Prime, Google. Oh, by the way, I watched a movie this weekend. I just remembered because I saw Prime. It was on Netflix. You guys will be proud of me. I watched the movie. I watched a movie. I slept through the last 20 minutes of it, but I still watched the movie. and I think you guys will enjoy. Some of you guys will be like, why did he watch this movie? But they offered Gemini to free for students for a year. Well, whatever they're doing with distribution, it is helping them. And I mean, if Gemini were to surpass ChatGPT, that would not surprise me, given they already have 2 billion users that use Google every month. Okay, the movie that I watched, which actually I enjoyed, even though it broke my rule of below 7 on IMDb, but I still enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys have seen this movie before, okay? This was just random. I clicked on it, and I enjoyed it, even if I fell asleep the last 20 minutes, so I still have to rewatch the ending on how it ended. But I watched Money Talks with Chris Tucker and Charlie Sheen. It popped up on Netflix. I clicked it, and I enjoyed it. I watched it. So I know it's not Tombstone or whatever else Steve was recommending last week, but you can't be upset that I watched the movie dude. I watched a freaking movie. So I feel proud of myself, to be honest. I feel very proud. Dude, Chris Tucker does not get enough credit. Elite. I mean, just like one of the funny, like I want to watch every Chris Tucker movie. I know Rush Hour is the best, but I want to watch every, like, absolutely hilarious, dude. Like legitimately one of the funniest people on this planet. Steve didn't recommend this either. This was my own. So I enjoyed it. Okay, thank you. You guys are saying it's a classic. All right, I enjoyed it. It was a good one. But I need to watch all the other ones that Steve recommends. Bay Ray says it had money in the name. That's all it took. Maybe I saw money in the name. But no, honestly, Charlie Sheen came out with some new documentary or something. So maybe I've been like thinking about Charlie Sheen and that's why I clicked on it. I don't know why I clicked, but I clicked and I enjoyed the movie. So there you go. All right. What other piece of macro updates do we have? Oh, so a couple of quotes right here. One of Goldman's head macro people. Here's what he said. This quote I think is very profound, but it probably explains why the markets are moving the way they're moving. He said, there's a sense that money is losing value anyway, so better to use it now than hold it. Better to use it now than hold it. I think this quote is going to define the next couple of years. The Dixie is losing value. It's at 97.78, but it's still down 10% for the year. It got below 97 on Thursday. Gold is spiking. Why? Because people want to be in assets that are not U.S. Treasuries. I mean, you're seeing in Japan that they're, or not Japan in particular, but Japan is starting to increase their supply of gold. But more central banks now hold commodities in their reserves than U.S. Treasuries. I think we showed that stat like 2 weeks ago. That's continuing to show that cash is trash. And then money market funds for the first time in 4 weeks showed a decrease of $20 billion. I expect this to continue. That money doesn't have to go into the stock market, but it definitely is going to be allocated in other places than just being cash, especially with the expectation of 75 bips of cuts. And then obviously Bitcoin, Ethereum, I mean, the assets that are more cyclical as a hedge against money printing, probably catch a bid. 114.6 on Bitcoin. Is Ethereum still below 43? Ethereum 43.47. That's down about 3%. SoFi, yes, we did hit 30. Are we back at 30 on SoFi? 29.90. Grab 650. That one making a little bit of a move. Let's see if we can break that tomorrow. That'll be big to break 650. And you got a video right there at 176. So again, the argument that cash is losing its value in the first place, I think speaks to the argument that Evercore made a couple weeks ago, which is that we might get into a asset bubble. And that asset bubble might last many years. I mean, a lot of people are comparing this to 2021 and then 2022 is the inevitable decline. What if that's not the case? What if it's 2021, but the show goes on for a long time because earnings are good, inflation is tame, deflation comes in because of AI, and then the labor market is not as bad as we think, even if prices are inflated because rates are coming down. And I can't say that would be a crazy way for this to play out because of how much it'll be just like gut-wrenching for people to sell their NVIDIA after NVIDIA puts up good quarters because they think it's a bubble. Now, technically, if it is some horrible bubble that's supposed to collapse, then you should be selling. But if it doesn't end up leading to that type of collapse for like 5 years, you don't want to be the guy who sold NVIDIA in 2026 and there was another 4x left. I'm being hyperbolic here, but you get my point, right? Over the coming years. Money printer's on. Exactly. The money printer's on. And hopefully we can grow GDP, which is kind of Besant's playbook for the next 5 years, to be able to manage the impacts of the money printer. And we're going to have to see, but we kind of have no choice but to grow. And part of how we're going to grow is with OpenAI and Sam Altman. So here's what he tweeted today. Over the next few weeks, we are launching some new compute-intensive offerings. Because of the associated costs, some features will initially only be available to pro subscribers, and some new products will have additional fees. Our intention remains to drive the cost of intelligence down as aggressively as we can and make our services widely available. And we are confident we will get there over time. But we also want to learn what's possible when we throw a lot of compute at today's model costs at interesting new ideas. This is exactly what Zuck said. Basically, Altman saying we want to learn what's possible when we throw a lot of compute, aka GPUs, at interesting new ideas. A lot of those ideas are not going to work. Just like Zuck's admitted, we might lose a couple $100 billion, but we are willing to spend, because if we don't spend, we're screwed. And this is the biggest opportunity of a lifetime, aka that means that if we don't spend right now, we're not going to have a chance to succeed. So again, going back to the argument of Toppy, Bubbly, like if all of these guys are willing to keep spending, and by the way, the reason they're willing to keep spending is because not only do they see the ROI, but investors are subsidizing their ability to spend in the private markets and the public markets. I mean, if public market investors were not okay with Zuck spending, the stock would not be up 30% year to date. OpenAI would not easily be able to raise freaking, $15 billion over the past 2 months at a $350 to $500 billion valuation if investors did not think this is the most significant opportunity ever. So either all those investors and CEOs are wrong, or they're somewhat right, and there's going to be some ROI that's going to lead to massive change. I think it's the latter over the first one. Yeah, as Lunar says, when CapEx doesn't lead to EPS growth, we get into 2022, 1,000%. If we don't, and we've already been seeing the EPS growth, I wouldn't say it's directly tied to CapEx, but if we start to see a correlation with CapEx and EPS growth, then we get to avoid 2022. If we don't, we're going to fall pretty badly. But if not, then I think that's okay. Amit, if U.S. markets seem to go down, do you think we're better off investing in emerging markets like Grab or treasuries like BMR, or do you think everyone is going down? It's a very good question. It's a nuanced answer. I think if we get a crash in the U.S. markets, unfortunately, the way the algorithms are set up from quant trading firms, high-frequency algorithms, it's hard to imagine that a company like Grab that really has nothing to do with like U.S. interest rates. I mean, I guess you could say tourism is affected by some extent, but at the end of the day, Southeast Asia is just a totally different environment. It shouldn't be privy to those impacts. But Grab got to 345 in April on Liberation Day, right? The whole market took a hit. So I think the U.S. markets are too big. I think your only sense of safety is likely gold, or maybe the defensives like a Verizon, which even Verizon is probably going to take a little bit of a hit, but at least you'll have something that doesn't go down like 30, 40%. But I don't think there's anywhere to hide. Like BMR absolutely is getting demolished. If there you go, 58.96, that's down about 4%. If the S&P were to fall, 10, 15%. Same thing with Grab, as much as I think it doesn't deserve to. Same thing with Google and SoFi, Hood, NVIDIA. Now, those would be amazing buying opportunities as long as there's nothing structural hurting the economy. But it's very hard to imagine the integration of algorithms and retail psychology inside its market, not to mention hedge funds that in general are just going to want to take profits if we have that big of a downfall, where there's something that's safe. I mean, in April, what was safe? Pretty much nothing. Bitcoin wasn't safe. Maybe healthcare is your defensive, but it's weird, dude, because UNH, UNH should be the one that's a little bit more safe, but we've seen some drawdowns and UNH gets hit with everything else because at the end of the day, a lot of retail investors own it. A lot of big guys own it. And it kind of gets played into the options market with a lot of other stocks that end up taking a hit. So if we actually get a meaningful drawdown, we'll see which ones outperform. But again, the odds of a 10 to 15% drawdown on the S&P by the end of the year, I don't know, dude. It's tough to see that happening. Now, maybe that's when it hits us, but I think there's a bunch of tailwinds that are hard to ignore. But could I see 5% down in October? Yeah. I mean, giving back 5% would not be the craziest thing in the world. Yeah, maybe bonds. I mean, the problem in April was that bonds weren't safe either. Bonds were being sold off. 10-year right here, slightly down. So yeah, maybe bonds are where you hide. Maybe money market funds are where you hide. But realistically, I think people would just be hoping to have cash to buy that dip. Because if you get any serious drawdown, which I think a lot of us have been waiting for since April, hasn't come since June, because from April to June was the recovery, then maybe we don't need to have that much pain. Riot right here after hours, that is slightly down. Marathon, that one slightly up. And then Clean Spark, which is transitioning to a data center play, that one also broke out last week, slightly down in the pre-markets or in the overnight hours. Now, I will be talking about hedging going into 2026. I have a lot of ideas on hedging. that I want to talk about going into the end of the year. And I mean, I think I'm going to buy a sizable amount of puts going into 2026. Like, I don't know the exact amount, but I'm thinking anywhere from $25,000 to $50,000 worth of puts. And the goal for that money is to literally go to zero, because that means the markets are going to do great in 2026, hopefully. But I do want to hedge the portfolio in 26. And, in general, I don't think you have to hedge, but if the portfolio is getting larger, having a certain selection of it being hedged is not a bad idea. And I know covered calls tends to be my hedge, but that's not like a direct hedge where if something tanks, the puts immediately start printing. And I don't think that's a bad thing, because right now puts are cheap. And if we get a bull run towards the end of the year, I think puts will continue to be cheap. And if December we're at S&P 6,900, 6,800, I would love to buy some puts, some cheap puts going into 2026, because if there's any meaningful drawdown, which every year there tends to be at least like 10% haircut for whatever reason, then I think having that hedge is not the bad idea. So yes, a covered call is a hedge. It's just not the most direct hedge as buying a put. Just like even buying $600 puts on the S&P 500. If S&P's at 690, $600 puts are going to be super cheap. So even 650 puts are going to be super cheap. You can buy leap puts to give yourself a year. And the goal is for those puts to go to zero, aka for you to lose whatever portion that you're hedging with. But that means the broader market should be okay. And so I do think, dude, if we end up in a really strong bull run, it is important to at least think of hedging, and we'll explore a bunch of different ideas going to 2026. But right now, I'm not buying those puts because I think we've got earnings coming up, and those earnings, along with rate cuts, makes buying puts right here to me kind of, I mean, yes, as a hedge, it's fine, but I don't think it's the most necessary thing to do going into the end of the year. And there's a lot of ways. You can buy calls on the VIX. There's a lot of different things we'll talk about towards the end of the year, but there's a bunch of different ideas. If SoFi hits 30, will Tanner and the Stock Goat host a charity boxing match? I don't know if that's in their plans. SoFi did hit 30 already. That would be kind of funny if they have a charity boxing match, but we're going to have to see if Tanner's up for it. That would be fun if Tanner's up for it. Call Steve. I do have a missed call 5 minutes ago by Steve. I just realized my phone was on Do Not Disturb. So let's call him, see if he picks up. See if we can get some of his thoughts on what's going on. Robin right there, 124.79 after hours, or in the overnight markets as well.
Hello.
Steve, hello.
Did you hear the news?
I'm live, by the way. No, I did not hear the news. What's the news?
Or did you see the rumor mill?
No, what is it?
Your buddy over there is thinking about buying Eatzilla.
What, Tom Lee?
That's what I hear.
Tom Lee is trying to buy Eatzilla?
That's what I hear in the rumor mill.
What's the rumor mill? Like some random tweet that you saw?
No, I was doing this fintech thing with Tevez, Roy, and Tanner.
Okay.
And Tanner came across it on something. And I guess it's getting a lot of traction.
Wow. Eatzilla, I mean, the rumor has some legs to it. ETZ is up 15% overnight. Huh. I mean, I think that would be bullish because, like, a lot of these ETH treasuries probably can't compete with Bitcoin, right?
And they're just going to have to consolidate.
They're just going to have to consolidate. Some of you guys said I've been saying in the chat. All right, I didn't see some of the comments. Okay, so a bunch of you guys mentioned it earlier. I mean, bullish.
Very bullish.
ETH is down, though. It's at like 4,300.
Yeah, I need to keep going down because I'm buying more this week.
Dude, you are so bullish. I love it. Like,
Yep.
By the way, I just real quick, I watched the movie over the weekend.
Wow, what did you watch?
You're not going to be proud of me, but I did watch a movie.
What did you watch?
I watched Money Talks with Chris Tucker and Charlie Sheen.
What is wrong with you?
Dude, it's an American classic.
Do not say Money Talks isn't a classic.
I mean, have you seen it?
Yes, I've seen it.
It's not a bad movie.
Out of everything that you could have watched, and out of everything your chat has said, and out of everything that everybody has told you to watch, you watched something that not a single person has ever brought up.
I'm a
Ever.
contrarian, bro. Like, I'm different, you know?
Oh, you're different, all right. You're
Dude,
different, all right. That's for sure.
It was on Netflix. I just clicked on it, bro. Like, that's it. That's how I watched it.
Yeah, the amount of things that are on Netflix that you could have clicked on.
Okay. Well, anyway, just letting you know. Just letting you know. Just real quick in general, Steve, I know you talked about it on Friday, but just broader thoughts for the market going into this week. You think we end out September green or red, or any ideas?
I mean, I think we end out green, but I got to tell you, this whole run is starting to worry me a little bit.
See, you are not alone. The chat feels the same. Freaking Oklo's at 142, up another 5%.
Yeah, and so I'm not opposed to it ending green, and I'm not opposed to the market going higher because I do think we're going to 7,000. But some of this pre-revenue bull has to stop.
It's a little, it's almost like it's too good, right? And it's like kind of scary.
It's not that it's too good. It's just the strong companies are so strong that the market isn't going to go down, and it's making all those things that are pre-revenue go skyrocket.
Oh, that's a good
Now,
point. That's a good point.
And it's a problem because these companies don't deserve to be where they are. I was looking at Oklo the other day, and I'm like, how does it have this market cap? There's no revenue. And I understand that people are in the idea that we're building more data centers, we need more energy, we're going to need small nuclear reactors, et cetera, et cetera. But how long until this company generates revenue, and how long until it turns profitable? And you're going to give it this type of market cap? Like, it's insanity.
Okay, so the question here is it retail or is it smart money that knows that Oklo has ties with the Trump administration? Yeah, like what do you think is kind of going on?
I have I couldn't even begin to tell you.
Because I mean, they do objectively, they have ties with the Trump. They're heavy with the Trump admin.
Yeah,
And
I get that. And it just doesn't make sense that companies like that, it's not just Oklo, it's SMR, it's the whole thing. It just doesn't make sense that, and here's why. Look at Southern Company. Southern Company already has nuclear reactors going. It's not getting a multiple.
you know, it's
It's
a
one of
good
the
point.
largest. It's one of the largest utility companies in the country, and they're growing their scale, and they're setting up more small nuclear reactors. They're not getting a multiple. Yet these pure play ones that don't generate revenue are. It's backwards. It's completely backwards. And the problem is the market's very strong. EPS is growing. So it may just run. I think they're way too high. And I think segments of the market need to come back to reality.
Now here's the thing. Let's say that segment does come back to reality. Does that mess up the bull run if Oklo falls 50%?
No, because it's not even in the S&P.
That's a good point.
So it doesn't matter. Like, these companies are not in the S&P. It doesn't matter for the market. It's just pockets are getting such a multiple for no reason that it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, granted, what if someone says, well, Steve, you're buying BMNR? That's the same thing.
Right. I'm buying BMNR because it's a play on Ethereum, which has the stablecoin adoption happening. And if anybody listened to what Vlad said at the Olin Summit, I'm now on the camp of tokenization is going to be real, like very real. And there's a clear pathway to that, and that's not 5 or 10 years off. Stablecoin is going to be a 2026 theme.
Yeah.
We see it with all the adoption from all the major companies.
And I don't know if you read this white paper yet, but Vitalik, the creator of Ethereum, he wrote a white paper that said low risk DeFi can be for Ethereum what search was for Google, essentially making the argument that all these decentralized apps building on Ethereum can be the moneymaker via tokenization stablecoins that search ended up being the cash cow for Google.
Correct.
And
Now,
that could be bullish, like very
the
bullish.
video I sent you and you said you saw it, I got to tell you, I'm going to buy more NVIDIA this week.
Yeah,
I don't care that it's a 175.
The
Pixel
video Steve
Pix-
sent was just a Microsoft president talking about how much they're investing in data centers. So, yeah, I mean, NVIDIA's still the picks and shovels.
This is a game changer. It's a game changer because they're now claiming, and follow me, they're claiming that this data center is going to be leaps and bounds better than anything that they've built, anything Amazon has built,
Correct.
or anything Alphabet has built.
Correct. Yeah.
They're also increasing their CapEx spend by more than 25% year over year because they did 80-something billion this year. They're going to do over 100 billion this fiscal year now. And Alphabet and Amazon now have to respond. And they now have to come out and build a massive data center and come out with these new claims and show all these things that they're doing because they're all going to have to one-up each other. As I said, they're all in a prisoner's dilemma. None of them can take their foot off the gas. It is playing out exactly how I said it would.
So you're buying more NVIDIA. You don't care.
I mean, I don't see anything that's as clear because they're not buying AMD chips. They're not buying Intel chips. They're not buying ARM chips. I mean, when I say that, I'm talking about the GPUs. They obviously need server chips, and that'll probably be a mix of the Intel Xeon and the AMD Threadrippers or whatever their new stuff is. But for the GPUs and the training inference, there's only one game in town, and it's the NVIDIA GPU racks, and Jensen laid out a 3-year upgrade cycle to the new platforms. So they're just going to keep spending, and they're going to keep spending, and they're going to keep spending.
By the way, ETHZilla files for a special shareholder meeting for October 7th.
Oh, they're getting acquired.
I mean, it seems kind of obvious that could play out. It really
seems
does.
kind of obvious they're going to get acquired because at this point, you're going to have to buy some treasury companies if you want to keep the same velocity going.
Yeah. Yeah, and Peter Thiel's invested in both. So Thiel's in BM&R and ETHZilla.
Anything Peter Thiel backs, just buy at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to deny.
If anybody does not miss, it's freaking him.
Yeah. I agree. And you're going to your point of NVIDIA, let me just play this clip real quick. On Friday after hours, there was news about Meta and Oracle.
Bloomberg reported that it is in advanced talks with Meta on a $20 billion multi-year cloud computing deal. The agreement would make Oracle a critical infrastructure provider for Meta's AI training and deployment. It also follows OpenAI's massive $300 billion cloud commitment to Oracle, really cementing Oracle's status as a bigger player in that AI arms race. Meta ended off its session lows as investors digest what could become another landmark partnership and this scramble for AI computing power. Back to you guys.
I mean, Zuck's already said he doesn't care how much he loses. So,
I mean, and it goes back to my point. Nobody can compete with these companies.
Nobody
can compete with these companies. You can't compete with Oracle. You can't compete with Meta, Amazon, Alphabet, or Microsoft. You just can't compete with them.
Do you remember on like December 31st, we did a stream, and I explicitly remember you and I listened to like 3 or 4 of the CNBC analysts, and all of them, almost all of them, I mean, it had to be like literally 90% of them, said rotate out of large caps, right? Get into like diversify. And you and me were pretty aligned of like, nope, winners win. Like, you cannot bet against these companies. It is almost unfathomable to bet against Meta, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Oracle, Apple, Tesla. How do you do that?
So I'm going to disrespect some things right now. That's like trying to say a D3 football team has any chance against the worst D1 football team.
Yeah.
Just never going to happen. And then you start getting into the big ones like Ohio State and Michigan, Florida, freaking Gators, FSU, Miami. It ain't going to happen. Different league, different game. You can't do it. These companies have bigger freaking revenues than some countries.
Nvidia is bigger than Germany.
Think about that. You're telling me that somebody's going to compete with Nvidia? Like, really?
Well, you got some quantum CEOs saying Nvidia is obsolete in 2027.
Oh yeah, sure. And people are buying up those stocks because their CEOs are pumping their book. Sure, Nvidia is going to be irrelevant. Got news for everybody. These quantum CEOs, okay? And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. If Alphabet can't crack quantum and IBM can't crack quantum, these little companies ain't cracking it. Sorry, it's not happening. It's just not going to happen. These companies don't have the resources, and it's not just infrastructure. They don't have the bankroll to hire the best and the brightest. So you're telling me that these little companies are going to do something in quantum when IBM and Alphabet have been trying for 10 or 15 years already, and they're still working on it? You're telling me they're going to do something bigger and better? No, it's not happening.
What did you think of Elon and Trump reconnecting at the memorial for Charlie Kirk?
I saw all the photos. We'll see. I think a lot of unity is gonna happen, is what I think.
I think so too. I think something like this definitely gets people to connect.
So I think they're gonna put whatever it is behind them.
Yeah, I agree.
But look, the winners are gonna keep winning. The big companies are gonna keep getting bigger. I don't see how you compete against these companies. And now that there's precedent for Alphabet not getting broken up, I think that fear is off the table for all these companies, because you know that the feeling is if you break these companies up, you give our adversaries a chance to catch up, and we're never going to let that happen under this administration.
Yeah, and
it's clear.
I think a lot of analysts want new ideas, which is why they suggested to get out of large caps. And new ideas, I mean, we've had a lot of ideas in 2025 that have worked. But as a general principle, to completely take your entire portfolio out of something like the NASDAQ and have exposure to big tech in exchange for other opportunities, you would have to be really good at finding those other opportunities, because it is really tough to be an investor.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. To not have any exposure. What
are you going to do? Put your money in Procter & Gamble?
Yeah. I mean,
it's just.
And yet, look, if someone went full port Reddit this at the beginning of the year, you've outperformed the Mag 7. That's fine. But you have to be right. You know, if you're not right on that name, then just having a little bit in Nvidia, Google, Microsoft, you would have done very well this year still.
Yeah, look, you could have put your money in Robinhood. You could put it in Palantir. You could put it in SoFi. You would have done phenomenal. It wasn't as easy.
Correct.
To be right on those as it was to be right on the Spectacular 6, because I'm not going to include Tesla.
See, but that's disrespectful. Don't be disrespectful on a Sunday night. Don't do that, dude.
But when it comes down to it, it wasn't hard to see that the biggest companies were just going to keep doing well. It was the easiest thing to say.
Yeah, it's also if even Apple, which is getting more of a premium now, and it's still down 1% year to date, at 198 or 180, whatever it got, it's freaking Apple. They were gonna figure it out.
Yeah, they're doing $100 billion worth of profit. They're gonna figure it out.
They're gonna figure it out.
Another.
Tim Cook's gonna give him glass gifts. He's gonna put more zoom on the iPhone 17. They're gonna figure it out.
All right, they're gonna say that they're gonna do $600 billion of investments in U.S. because that's what the administration wants to hear. They're gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't want anybody who's new thinking that I'm just jumping on the bandwagon. I've legitimately been saying this and putting this in writing on public websites the whole time. I haven't changed my opinion. This is what I've been saying is going to happen.
Great. Steve's Twitter, I put right there in the chat. Steve, I also have to tell you something. I figured out why the Wi-Fi was so bad.
Oh, this should be good.
So the company gave me a 2.4 gigahertz connection and a 5 gigahertz connection.
And you were hooked up to the 2.4?
I was hooked up to the 2.4 for the past 3 weeks. And so when I did the
Oh.
speedtest.net, you know how I gave you like 10 and 15 on my download upload? Now it's 350 and 470.
Okay, so you're fine. You don't need to wire it that.
Yeah, it's a little bit better. A little bit better.
Okay.
So
Just a little bit.
yeah. So I think the Wi-Fi should be good now.
There's another thing you can do. You can download Wi-Fi Analyzer on your laptop and walk around, and it'll detect if there's any signals that are blocking it. So
wait a second.
You could do
Hold
that.
on. Does the G in 5G stand for gigahertz? No, it stands for generation. Stands for generation. I was about to say. I didn't know that. Okay, cool. I never knew what it stands for. Okay, 5th generation. That makes sense. All right. Anyway. Yo, who knew that, bro? No one knew that. Don't act like anyone knew that, bro. No one knew that shit. Everyone's gonna make fun of me. No one knew it stands for generation.
everybody knew.
No
that.
one knew. You did not know it stands for generation, bro. There's no way.
You realize that IT reports to me, right?
Anyway, whatever. But yeah, the Wi-Fi should be better. Someone asked Steve, what are your thoughts on the new 100,000 H-1B plan, and do you think it's going to massively affect work in the country?
I think that they're gonna revamp what they said, so we'll see. I want to see what the final version is. It seems like they're going back on.
They got a lot of fucking pushback in the past 20. I mean, they got like a lot of people. So they revised the executive order, said, no, it doesn't, affect people that are here. People can travel. So it was not taken appropriately. And I think Trump himself realized, all right, this is a little bit aggressive, but it looks like they're going to go with it.
The final version says.
Yeah, there's going to be some amended ways that they push out this policy. But it definitely was not exactly how they thought it was going to be. Okay, so end of September you think is green, and overall you think you can't fight the Fed, can't fight big tech, and show continues.
Well, don't fight big tech because you don't have the bullets and you don't have the freaking dollars. You know what I mean? Like, that's like going up against the freaking Green Berets or the Navy SEALs. It's just not what you want to do.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know how anybody thinks that these companies aren't going to continue to lead the way. So you're telling me that somebody's going to come in and compete with them in cloud services? Stop. Like, in all seriousness, all these other companies should just stop, because it's like, who uses the IBM? Like, IBM may be a bad one because of their consulting business, but who uses these other small clouds?
Well, I mean, you're getting, so this one goes back to what I texted you about. So you said we need to look at SMCI. I think we need to look at Nebius.
Oh, Tevis was saying the same thing tonight.
No, but he's right. We need to look at Nebius, Cypher, dude, SMCI is like, who cares about SMCI? Like, that story's over.
No. Yeah, but so Vertiv and SMCI, because if NVIDIA is going to sell this much, if Microsoft's increasing their CapEx by 20-25%, and if everybody else is going to increase it next year, then you're going to need way more racks and liquid cooling.
No, but sure, but dude, the market has known about that for like I think you're going to need more of what Iren, Nebius, Bitfarms. I think what they're doing is way more in demand. I mean, that's why Nebius got a $20 billion versus SMCI. And SMCI is still in demand, but like that's not a new story. It's not like there's any exciting
No, but look at the short interest. Look at the short interest.
I don't think it's a squeeze, Kansas. I don't. Also, remember, their margins are disgusting. Like,
I get it.
Yeah, I mean, it is short at 20%, so it could squeeze. But I think there's more alpha in these data center plays. And I've been late to the party on all of them, but I mean, if it's growing at the rate they're growing, then I think it's worth looking into them.
I will try to do some research on them this week.
Yeah, I mean, VRT, also a lot of those names have moved. VRT, VST, SMT.
Right, they've moved, but did anybody really think that, every 1,000 point, right? S&P 3,000, S&P 4,000. I remember when freaking the NASDAQ hit 10,000 and people were like, it's going to crash. Every new height that everything makes, everybody thinks it's going to crash. It's not going to. They'll have a pullback. Pullbacks are inevitable. But unless the U.S. economy completely goes off a cliff, it's just going to get bigger.
Do you think we get a pullback in October?
We could, but I'm not seeing that's likely only because you have rate cuts plus earnings season coming up, and nobody thinks earnings season is going to be bad.
Yeah. Which is scary because if it ends up being bad, that's not good.
Well, if it ends up being bad, then it's going to be
It's gonna be really bad.
Right. But with where all the companies are projecting, nobody's projecting that there's going to be decelerating growth.
Yeah. That's fair. That's fair. All right, Steve. Thank you for joining. We will talk to you later throughout the week. And yeah, we'll keep going from there. Oh, we lost him. He might have been driving there. All right, folks. That is pretty much it. Again, the kind of core argument he made at the end was that it's just really hard to ignore big tech, and it's not slowing down. Which, if the earnings are right, it's probably not slowing down. All right, he's calling back. Let me call him. Say I love you. Yeah, I think that was you.
Did you see the tweet I put out?
Tweet? Oh, this tweet?
Alternative Asset Weekly is back.
So is this like a newsletter every week on
I'm probably going to do a newsletter every week on it.
Okay, so I'll link this in the chat.
And
right
by
here.
the way, Grok is phenomenal. Like, I got news for you. This is even more of a reason why I just think that AI is going to disrupt so many things. It took all of like 4 seconds for it to generate that thumbnail. I would have needed to hire a freaking graphic artist to do that for me. And it would have been a 3-day turnaround.
Yeah, it makes you more efficient, right? More productive.
Like, freaking AI, man.
So here's the thing. I think you need to make a YouTube channel and make a video about this article as well. Because I think people would love to hear you actually explain like this market that I'm looking at right here. Wow, average appreciation 5,000%.
Yeah, the XY era boxes from 2014 to 2016, over 5,000% if you bought one of every box. If I remember correctly, it would have been $1,100 investment, and today the market value of them is like $62,000 collectively.
When did they come out for 1,100?
I have the dates there. It's 2014 to 2016, I think.
Oh,
XY era.
Dude, that's got to be up there with Bitcoin in terms of best performing assets, right?
It's insanity. And here's the part about it. They're just getting more rare and less of them on the market. So they're so freaking expensive.
All right. I'm linking this article right here in the chat. Hey, Steve, we got to get you to make a YouTube channel so you can talk. I mean, people would love to hear you actually speak.
Go off on just ridiculous tangents.
Yes. Like people will put you on in the background and they're just going to listen to you talk about this stuff. So Pokemon cards are not tokenized yet, as someone's asking, but if they do become tokenized, I mean.
So real quick, I did change my feeling on this. I said about 6 months ago, I said sports cards and TCG cards, which is Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, Yu-Gi-Oh, etc., would never be tokenized. I'm changing my feeling on that, and I think the very, very high-end stuff. So in Pokemon, I would say these sealed boxes there aren't many of. Somebody could theoretically buy a bunch of them and start a fund and tokenize it and keep it at a secure location like an Iron Mountain or something. I think that's coming. I think that's what O'Leary's going to do. He already alluded to after he bought the Kobe and Jordan card for $12.9 million. He did a follow-up interview outside of CNBC, and he discussed how he's going to be purchasing vintage cars and that type of stuff. And he wants to create a fund and tokenize it. So I think we are going to get that in some degree.
Yeah, and I mean, look, if there's that much excitement as rates come down for new assets, then there's probably going to be a market for that.
I mean, I was talking to Alex the other day, and he said to me he went to Collecticon. He couldn't believe, and look, I'm not going to say the number, but I've told you privately what he does. It's big numbers. And he said to me he couldn't believe what people were spending at Collecticon. Like, he couldn't believe it.
Someone says, I still have my kids' Pokemon cards from upstairs in the 1990s. Guess I should go find them. I mean,
my God, whoever said that, you should drop what you're doing. You should go up there and look at them. If you have 1999 first editions, shadowless, or just regular first editions, you could be sitting on a ridiculous amount of money. Absolutely. Even the 2001s like Jungle and Fossil, you could be sitting on a ridiculous amount of money.
And here's the thing. If all that tokenization happens on Ethereum,
Yep.
I mean, yeah, it's a good argument. It's not a crazy argument to imagine, though.
No, I think the next couple of years are going to be pretty wild, and I think it's going to be the NFT craze that we saw was just a mania and a craze. I think this is going to be so much bigger. When I see how many people are at the conventions that I go to, and the ones I go to are not like ridiculously huge. The East Coast National had like 4,000 people maybe at it.
Yeah.
The amount of money that I see being spent, and you look like the nationalized conventions and stuff, there is so much demand that I think a lot of people would spend $500, $1,000, or $2,000 on shares of an ETF that has ownership in these high-end cards that they'll never be able to own. Like, not many people are spending 50 grand, 100 grand, 500 grand, or $1 million on a baseball card. So to have a 1952 PSA 6 mantle and be able to buy part of an ETF that has that in its assets, I think there's going to be huge demand for that.
Yeah, and that goes to the post Vitalik made as well. I mean, if you get a marketplace for decentralized apps, decentralized exchanges, decentralized marketplaces on Ethereum that trade these types of assets, maybe not exactly NFTs, but different versions of them. I mean, yeah, that's more excitement and more momentum. And the cool thing about this is there's real nostalgia in what you're talking about, which kind of gives it more added value versus like a picture of a monkey back in 2021.
Yeah, I mean, and there are so many things that people look to invest in. I mean, look, I've actually looked into investing in freaking Scotch barrels and whiskey barrels.
Yeah.
As crazy as that may sound.
Well, it also goes to the point of what Goldman's head macro guy said, which I think you'll resonate with. Quote, there's a sense that money is losing value anyway, so better to use it now than hold it.
I just think that people don't realize how much money is actually out there.
And if cash is trash, I mean, you're going to get Scotch barrels potentially get a bid, right? Like, I think it's
the appreciation, like that's the next thing I'm going to go down, the next rabbit hole. The appreciation in freaking whiskey barrels is nuts.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother thing that's just...
That's why you got to start the YouTube channel, so you can make a video about
it. I got to tell you, I really hope O'Leary does this because there's a lot of cool things that you can get involved with tokenization.
By the way, guys, Snapchat's up 13% after unveiling Snap OS 2.0, an operating system built for its forthcoming Snap Spectacle AR glasses.
Oh, nice. My wife will be happy.
That is why Snapchat is up now. So there you go. All right, Steve, thank you so much. Appreciate it. I'm linking your newsletter right here in the chat. We will talk to you during this week, and we'll keep going from there.
Yeah, try to stay out of trouble.
I need to finish the last 20 minutes of Money Talks because I fell asleep. Actually,
no, you need to not finish the last 20 minutes. You need to actually start watching some movies.
Dude, you got to be proud of me. I watched the freaking movie. Like, you have to.
I'm proud of you that you tried to watch a movie, but the fact that you just went against everything everybody said is wild.
It's not like I purposely did it. It just popped up on Netflix and I clicked. That's it. Like,
you were purposely looking for something.
Yeah, and it happened to pop up, and it had money in the title, and Charlie Sheen and Chris Tucker. I was like, oh, let me give it a shot, you know? So.
I don't even know what to say anymore.
Dude, I've seen Training Day. Someone said, Training Day is a classic. I've watched that for sure.
Thank you. Finally, you've seen, but you have seen some good movies. I will say that.
Yeah, of course. I've seen all the movies that matter.
Some good movies. No, stop it.
I've seen the movies.
Stop
that
it.
matter.
You've seen like 0.01% of movies that matter.
The movies. Yeah, there's only 0.01% of movies that
No.
genuinely,
There's a lot of movies that freaking matter. A lot of movies.
All right, Steve, thank you. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Later. All right, folks, that is it. We are done for the day. Again, market's relatively flat. I mean, we're really not getting that much of a move out of any of these names outside of Tesla. Snapchat also a grab, making a little bit a move of a move right here, 647. Ethereum to the downside, making a move. But when the market's open tomorrow, we are going to see if September fun can continue. And hopefully it does. I should have said I love you. I forgot to say I love you. That would have been funny. I forgot to say it. But yeah, I think September should be ending out in a nice way. If we don't, then no one's going to be surprised. If Robinhood goes back to 115, SoFi goes back to 25, the S&P goes back to 650, if Grab goes back to 6, if Reddit goes back to 240, Meta goes back to 750. Like, no one would be surprised. And if anything, I think people would be kind of excited to nibble in again on those dips. But Hood and AppLovin have S&P 500 tomorrow. That's going to be very important for them. And then if we can keep the broader of the market going as we head into Q3 earnings, then shouldn't be the worst in the world. So we just got to see how that one ends up playing out. So there you go. That's it. We fixed the Wi-Fi. We had no issues today on the Wi-Fi. Who would have thought upgrading from 2.4 to 5 would be enough to fix it? But yeah, Wi-Fi should be like good. Wi-Fi should be solid. I was like, dude, I pay so much for this thing. Like, how is it still bugging out? And then I realized I'm like, I was using the wrong version. So shouldn't be too bad. And we're going to see what we get this week. Again, we got a ton of macro data coming this week. We have a few earnings. Should be a relatively normal week. But then again, every week this year has been kind of crazy in regards to the stock market. And then we enter October. And October, one of my favorite months of the year. We'll see how that one plays out. And then November, December, and that's it. We are done for 2025 with the broader stock market. So there you go. All right, that's it. Again, thank you everybody for the 100K. I really, really do appreciate all the well wishes and congrats. I had a lot of people message me and comment on the video from Friday. Again, deeply, deeply, deeply appreciated. My mom threw this like entire pseudo party this morning when I came back home for celebrating the 100K. So really means a lot. I am deeply, deeply humbled and grateful. But now we get back to work. Now we got to keep grinding. We got to keep doing what we've done to even get to this point. And I'm just so excited to be here every single day. I'm excited to be here every single day, and I do not take any of these days for granted. So that's it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Love you all. We'll be back tomorrow on the Market Open, and I will see you guys then. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.